it's a victory Sunday for the Packers as they beat the Rams today 24-19 in Los Angeles. That's where Tim Van Voren is. Lily Zhao is here with me in the studio as we get you ready for tonight's FOX 6 Sports Blitz. Here's the starting lineup. The Packers get crafty in their win over the Rams in L.A., and that means bragging rights are earned in the LaFleur family. Pat Murphy's vocabulary grows as he makes us say what, while his Brewers get a rude introduction to the Mets. And we introduce you to this week's High School Hotshot.
You know, when I'm in the deep part of the field, if you're throwing the ball up there, then I feel disrespected. So, you know, for me, anytime that ball's in the air, I'm thinking it's my ball, and, you know, I'm trying to come down with that every time.
And almost every time it's thrown in his direction this year, it seems that Xavier McKinney is able to come up with an interception. Tim, let's start there. Quite an impressive start to his Packers career. 5 games, 5 interceptions, 1 in each game, and then he even added a little more today.
You're exactly right. A fumble recovered, which led directly to a touchdown in the second half. Then that interception, which led to a touchdown in the second half. Packers are the #1 team in the league in takeaways. Think about it, with 14 of them, they should probably be better than 3-2 record-wise. But this is an important win, and the takeaways and McKinney had a big part of it.
And those takeaways today turn into 14 points, which is huge in a 24-19 win. That seems to be the difference. When they can turn turnovers into points, then this team breathes a little easier. Now, this one went all the way to the end, but how big was the fact that this offense turned those into 2 touchdowns?
I think this entire team is now reliant on those takeaways. When you say that, through the first 5 games so far, the ones that have led to victories have been critical. The offense does cash in and get to the end zone. If you settle for field goals, or you don't even know if you're going to get those field goals, Braden Arvison was right down the middle today, but obviously they've missed a couple field goals, or a few field goals in this season so far. So getting all of to the end zone, credit the offense for that, and of course the actual takeaways to start, credit the defense.
And Tim, Matt LaFleur called this offense kind of feast or famine, especially in this game. Is that kind of the analysis you would put on them as well today?
I think so. So up and down, Lily. In that first half, the long drive, 95 yards plus to get a touchdown, the 52-yard pass to Jaden Reed. You're thinking, look what this offense is capable of. Otherwise, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. That's not the type of offense you want. The interception for a touchdown. So that's that's the trouble with this offense. They're waiting to really put it all together. Jordan Love saying after the game, that's what he was talking about, looking for the ability to be more consistent, be more explosive on a regular basis, which we have not seen yet. He said they're not where they want to be. He says they're missing. He didn't say it, but it sounded like an engine that's missing, kind of feast or famine.
Exactly, and you know, you don't have Christian Watson out there, you don't have Romeo Doubs out there, but Tim, look, talking about this pick 6 from Jordan Love, the first in his career, was that a big learning moment for him in terms of what he was able to do, and it was a very bad play, and I know he acknowledged that too.
Yeah, fluky play, bad play, you're exactly right. Trying to save a safety, so then it turns into 6 points, not 7, with them missing the extra point. But you can't leave a ball out there in the field of play. Even though it's a terrific play by McCullough right on the sideline there for the Rams, that should be credited too. But you know, that's one you can't give up if you're Jordan Love, who's had trouble with the interceptions in the games he's played this season.
And being shorthanded at wide receiver, he seems to have really created a connection with Tucker Kraft, who had an unbelievable day. And without him, this could be a very big struggle for the Packers.
You're exactly right. You go back 1 calendar year here, Tucker Kraft was an afterthought. He barely played, came on as last season went along, and this season he's been the main man at tight end for sure, and today a main man in the passing attack. Packers get 3 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft gets 2 of them, and in each case you wondered, was he going to be able to keep going down the field? Yes, he was. He would not be denied. This past week we were talking to him in the locker room, and he told me we have to get better at counting by 7s. Well, that means touchdowns, and Kraft got 2 touchdowns because he sniffed that end zone.
And with the receiving game having some issues because of Jordan Love not being as sharp as he would like, how big of a deal was Josh Jacobs in this one? We haven't seen him explode yet in a game, yet he did have some critical runs in this one.
Gets the other Packer touchdown, Brandon, and I would agree with you, not exploding, not splashy, but pretty important in the second half, particularly when they were able to run the ball. They were up over 50 yards rushing in the fourth quarter alone when you need to turn that clock. So that's where Josh Jacobs can really have some value.
He certainly can. And Tim, when you're looking at the offensive line and the defensive line, it felt like the Rams kind of had the edge in the trenches for most of the game, but the Packers in that department able to kind of get it done down the line. Was that maybe just a factor in why this game was a little bit sloppy and the Packers were on the sideline because, again, they were kind of getting beaten in the trenches on both sides?
I think that's where you go to the time of possession. A lot of times that's who's winning the battle at the line. And in that first half, the Rams were way up in time of possession because the Packers could not sustain drives. Part of that, a lot of that had to do with the pressure that was on Jordan Love, who's still finding his way back in terms of mobility in the backfield. And then the Packers didn't have much going as they struggled to kind of get the offense rolling without Christian Watson, as you talked about, without Romeo Doubs. Dontavian Wicks gets a lot of targets. He's not catching all the passes thrown his way right now. So there was a lot of advantage for the Rams, and to me that was reflected in the time of possession statistic.
Yeah, you just saw Jordan Love's stats there as well. But Tim, transitioning to the defense again, though, when you look at what they were able to do, they had a red zone stop, of course, 2 takeaways, and of course a big play at the end there from Evan Williams. How crucial just were those big moments on defense to help the Packers salt away this victory?
Well, you add them all up, Lily. You only won this thing by 5 points, and that was because the Rams had to go for a 2-point conversion. So you're exactly right that the defense, don't forget that 4th down stop. Don't forget Evan Williams there at the end. The Rams do not have the most explosive offense right now because they don't have their best players on the field, particularly on the perimeter. They have a good offensive coaching staff, though, and Sean McVay, who knows how to utilize his personnel. He's learned as they've gotten to this point. They only have 1 win, though. They really wanted this game going into their bye, and the Packer defense was enough against them. Certainly not the pressure that we saw against the Titans a few weeks ago, but better. And late, Jeff Hafley was able to turn it up a little bit as the coordinator.
And Tim, how much of how frustrating is it for Matt LaFleur and this team with the penalties that still add up? They had critical ones again when they were trying to keep drives alive or get into Rams territory, and they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. How frustrated does the head coach have to be at this point?
He sounded frustrated in answering a question about that after the game, Brandon. The overall numbers today on penalties way better than it's been, but untimely, as you talked about, and that's as critical as anything. So the Packers still have to shore this area up. There are definitely things to improve on this football team. You talked about the defense a moment ago. Where's Rashawn Gary? Where's Kenny Clark? This penalty issue, that's something they have to do. Jordan Love with carelessness maybe with the football. These are all things that the Packers are going to have to figure out if they're going to be a legit contender into the second half of this season, which they certainly think and still very well can be.
You mentioned this early, but Braden Arvison, when he had his shots today, he made them. Is there any chance that they're going to be bringing in kickers to try out this week like they did this past week?
I don't see why they would. They want Braden Arvison to work here, and today he piped his important field goal. It was an important time. It was a relatively deep field goal. He made it right down the middle. He looked confident. He said last week, coming off that Viking game during the week, he hit rock bottom. He hit rock bottom in the NFL. He doesn't know what his future is going to be, so he says you just have to go out there and do it and basically screw it and go with it. And that's what he looked like he was doing today, swinging it free and easy and delivering the main kick. I don't think there's any reason to play mind games with him this week. I think they like Narvison and they say, okay, that's one of the issues. That's one finger we don't have to plug in the dike this week.
And Tim, he told you pressure is a privilege, and he certainly answered the bell today in that department. But looking at this game as a whole, though, for Matt LaFleur, it's a family affair, right? He's got a brother on the other sideline, and of course he knows the head coach on the other sideline. So how big of an aspect was that today, just to kind of know that there's a lot of ties here for LaFleur and company?
Yeah, there's no question. I remember back the first year Matt was a head coach and he was going against Mike LaFleur, who was with the Niners at that time, and Matt LaFleur was nervous. Get this picture out of the way. I don't want to do any of this stuff. Today, pregame, he's much more relaxed about this. He knows the situation is in. His wife was here. I talked to his dad after the game, Denny. Mom was here. Mike LaFleur on the other side. They have realized now this is a privilege. You're going to go against people you know, and then you're both going to go on and coach again next week. And so the LaFleurs, the dad, Denny's told me after the game, I'm glad it's over. So, one way or the other, he was going to have a son win this game. In this case, it's Matt LaFleur. Was
there like a Rams hat and a Packers jersey, Tim, or were they kind of, give us
He was neutral. Mom and Dad were neutral. But they were outside the Packer locker room afterwards.
And according to Matt, because he bought their house, they do bleed green and gold.
Yeah, he's the favorite son.
Yeah, he's the favorite one, apparently, yeah. All right, Tim Van Voren live for us in L.A. We'll get back to you in a moment, Tim, as we have more to discuss because the Badgers return to the win column after handing the Boilermakers their biggest defeat in this series. 52-6 is the final. Braden Locke threw for 359 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, though. Tyree Walker ran for 3 scores in the win as well. Now, the Badgers were without Ches Malusi, who has left the team to get his body healthy. He has suffered season-ending injuries in each of the last 3 seasons. Malusi has played in 4 games so far this season. Coming up, Say What?
Do I vote? I don't even know if I vote for her.
You really want to ask that question out of the gate?
I just like getting people's attention with something.
My significant other think he's sexy, so.
Wow. That was interesting. Was that Taylor Swift?
I thought I could do it unobtrusively. Okay? Obviously, that's a pretty good word for me, right? Unobtrusively. It's pretty good.
Welcome back to the FOX6 Sports Blitz. Lily Zhao, Brandon Cruz, Tim Van Voren out for us in L.A. And you have to love Pat Murphy in his press conferences. We're going to miss it this year, Brandon. And he was speaking, of course, after the Mets eliminated the Brewers in the wild card series after they fell 4-2. But, Brandon, we were there on Thursday night in a crucial must-win Game 3. Has it kind of settled yet for you, what unfolded in that 9th inning?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's baseball. I mean, and we've seen the Mets now continue to do that as they win Game 1 against the Phillies, almost win Game 2 with the late comeback to only lose that. So that's what you get in postseason baseball. Everything is one pitch making a difference. And unfortunately for Devin Williams, that pitch to Pete Alonso is one he's going to have to remember for a long time. And this offseason seems to go really long when the season ends like this. And you watch this, I mean, he just kind of hung that pitch out there and Alonso took it over the wall. I mean, that crowd, we were about to go on the field had the Brewers won, and you just felt all the air get sucked out of American Family Field.
Yeah, and you hear the cheers from the Mets section and you just think, oh no, here we go again. But Tim, I'll go back out to you here. Just hearing Devin Williams just kind of take ownership for that 9th inning, just, chose to have a bad game on a bad night for the Brewers. Just what did you think of his ability to kind of take accountability for how that 9th inning went?
I think he should be commended for it. He said specifically, I'm not making any excuses, so I didn't get the job done. Those are the things. This is weird to say you want to hear, but after the problems on the mound, you want to know that it wasn't fluky. It wasn't fluky. Pete Alonso hit a ball, he hit it well. The Mets rolled that inning. They owned Devin Williams in that particular situation, and he was upfront about the way it felt afterwards. Very painful, very abrupt, kind of makes you erase the magic moments of that game until that point, or the magic moments of Game 2. But as Brandon said, that's postseason baseball.
It certainly is. And I think one thing that was important to note, though, was you had a guy named Bob Uecker, right, the legend in the clubhouse, just kind of walk around and talk to guys, Brandon, after the game. Just how important was his impact?
His impact is huge in this organization, in this city, in this state, and throughout baseball. I mean, Bob Uecker is Mr. Baseball, and there's a big reason for that. I mean, these guys love him. From every player, every person in this organization, every person in the media, every time you see him, you put a smile on your face. He wasn't there for games 1 and 2. He made it for Game 3, and a lot of people were worried, like, what's going on? Where is Bob? But he was there for Game 3. And when they lose in such a heartbreaking way, he comes out of the office and goes around and talks to everybody on that team, either individually or within groups. You see him here giving Devin Williams a big hug after that one. I mean, Bob Uecker is a guy who's seen it all, who's kind of done it all, and he is part of this team and the fabric of that clubhouse, and he just means so much to those guys, as you can see with his interactions in there. And certainly, and Christian Yelich is also very emotional talking about Bob Uecker after the game as well, so let's hear from him.
It's a tough way for your season to end, but talking to Yuki, one-on-one was tough.
Yeah, again, very emotional scene there in the clubhouse with Yelich talking about.
Yeah, I was right there talking to him about that, and you could tell he was literally biting his tongue to hold back tears as he referenced a one-on-one conversation that he had had with Bob Uecker after that loss. And he didn't want to go into the details about that, so we're not going to speculate as to what was said between the two, but it clearly was an emotional situation for Yelich, who even said, the loss is one thing. That conversation with Uecker was a lot tougher, and it was apparent. I mean, he really wanted to express his love and feelings for Bob, but at the same time, he had such a hard time getting the words out.
He certainly did. I think another player who also kind of had that same sentiment was also Willy Adames. And Tim, I'll go back out to you here. Just, regardless of whether or not he is back next year with the team, Willy Adames loves Bob Uecker, but also made a big impact on this team as a shortstop. So how valuable was he in his 3.5 seasons here in Milwaukee?
Oh, extremely. Definitely changed the clubhouse when he came in. He energized the clubhouse when he first arrived from Tampa Bay. He goes out with the Brewers and Adames having handled this situation as well as possible. I think the expectation by most people is he'll be elsewhere next year as a free agent. But there will be no bad blood because of how well it's been handled, the transparency on both sides. And I think while we commend Devin Williams earlier for his comments, I think both the Brewers and Adames should be commended for the way they've handled this situation.
Totally agree. All right. Meanwhile, the Bucs also begin their preseason tonight in Detroit. Let's get to them here, and they don't escape completely healthy as well. Gary Trent Jr. left the game in the first half with a hyperextended left elbow in a Bucs loss. I'm sure we'll talk about that later as the week goes on. Meanwhile, we'll be right back with our high school hot shot. Keep it here. Welcome back. He was born just before a national sporting event which would probably put him on a path of destiny. And that's why he's this week's FOX 6 High School Hot Shot.
Josiah Johnson, senior at Milwaukee Academy of Science, and I'm on the football team. As a kid, like when I was 5, 4, my grandma used to make me watch football with her. Yeah, she always tell me she's proud of me. Like, she called me her Super Bowl baby. But she always tell me she's proud of me. I show her my clips, and sometimes she'll tell me I'm not fast. She'll joke around with me, talking about she'll beat me in the race. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she's proud of me. This season dedicated to her.
Game day, game day. Stay tuned, man.
Yes, sir. It's our first year as a team, like starting off undefeated. So yeah, it feels good. It feels good. It's a little pressure. I like it. A lot of people doubting us. A lot of people saying we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and us going out every week doing what they said we're not gonna do. It's exciting. I started playing football when I was 6. I don't know, I feel like football was just meant for me. I fell in love with it as soon as I started watching it. As a kid, I was kind of bigger than everybody else, so I know my size, like they couldn't stop me, so that's why I fell in love with it, knowing that people can't stop me.
So you didn't mind taking a few hits?
No, I didn't mind taking a few hits. I actually like it a little bit. Some will probably call me a power back, but I feel like I'm an all-purpose back. I can put some moves out, I can run somebody over. On third down, I go out for a pass. I'm leading the state in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and rushing yards per game. I won Wisconsin Jolly Good Player of the Week, and I won UW Credit Union Student Athlete of the Week. I like track and field. I fell in love with it as I was growing up. 4x1, 4x2, open 100, and I do a little bit of shot put. I haven't decided which college I was going to yet, but I will decide in December. I wouldn't want to geek myself too much because, you know how it is when colleges reach out. I won't be satisfied until I get an offer, until my blessing comes. Shout out to my O-line. Without them, busting they behind week in and week out for me, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Yeah, without them, I wouldn't be nothing. I got to take them out to dinner or something one of these days. Yeah. Josiah Johnson, Joe, senior at Milwaukee Academy of Science, and I'm a running back for the Novas. And I'm this week's FOX 6 High School Hot Shot.
And I know the O-line will hold you to that, Josiah. Meanwhile, the Novas have continued their dominance through the season and have a chance to lock up their first conference title later this week. Meanwhile, looking ahead to Week 8 of the FOX 6 High School Blitz, our game of the week will be at Catholic Memorial as the Crusaders host the Wauwatosa East Red Raiders for a shot at the Parkland Conference title. Tune in this Friday for the FOX 6 High School Blitz with Brandon Cruz. That's coming up right after college football on Friday night, and we will be right back. Big week coming up for the Green Bay Packers. They return home hosting the Arizona Cardinals. You can watch that game right here on FOX 6 on Sunday.
All right, let's go back out to L.A. where Tim is. And Tim, it's kind of a big week for this team. We need to find out what's going on with Dobbs. We also need to find out why isn't Dontavian Wicks making the catches that we expect him and are used to him making.
That's a terrific question. I know the wide receiver coaches are focusing on that. Wicks was very productive last year. Now in a higher opportunity situation, he hasn't been as productive. So, he says he remains confident. We shall see, certainly going forward. You're right on the Dobbs suspension situation. And boy, they missed Devontae Wyatt on the defensive line today, too. They have to monitor his health situation going forward.
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.